know what I always say? I'm a child of God, a wife, a mom, an attorney, a coach, a mentor, a speaker, now an author. But most importantly, I believe you can do anything, but you can't do everything, and you have to choose wisely. And I come on Wednesday nights to talk a lot about life, love, and the relationships that we have with ourselves, God, and then as a result of those relationships, other people. And y'all, it's been a week and I'm tired. But as I was watching the election results roll in and everything that has sort of happened um, in the past few months, I was reminded of Martin Luther King popularized it. I believe it was actually a quote from an abolitionist minister from the mid 19th century. But the quote says, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And I think for a lot of us, we tend to believe that justice is inevitable. But the truth is, nothing is inevitable but death and taxes. Or as my grandmother said, I ain't got to do nothing but stay black and die. Um, the truth is, without activity, without ongoing work, without purpose and perspective, justice is never achieved. And we have seen that because history has repeated itself time and time and time again. And so the topic that I thought of tonight was hope springs eternal. And the reason for that is because just like justice, just like living in a nation that doesn't believe that small children should work in factories instead of going to school, and that widows and orphans should starve in the streets or work in workhouses because they don't deserve to live and to have food and to be able to sustain themselves, just like justice demands that we advocate for rights for those who are disabled and those who are mentally unwell. Justice also requires perseverance. And so, if last night did anything for me, it reminded me of the power of grit and determination. I've talked about it 1,000 times, and I'm not going to belabor the point tonight, but in any quest for any outcome, whether it's personal, professional, emotional, spiritual, academic, there's one trait that scientists have consistently said is the key determinant of success, and that is perseverance, also known as grit or stick with itness. This is simply defined as steadfast persistence in the face of challenges, setbacks, failures. And it's more than just a character trait. It's a complicated interplay of what we believe and what we know. And it defines human resilience and determination. And the importance of resilience isn't just marked in what we see in history. It's not just marked in what we have heard in stories. There is research that neuroscientists and psychologists have done that have offered profound insights into how perseverance actually shapes and molds our brain, influences our behavior, and contributes to our long term belief systems, which are the basis of success or failure. Neuroscientists have begun to unravel specific brain regions and neurochemical processes that are associated with grit, with perseverance. These studies are long term studies, and they reveal that sometimes you can tell how a person was wired to respond to challenges by the way they respond and by the way they pursue their goals. People who were wired to believe that they can't set smaller, less lofty goals, and whether or not they achieve them, in many cases, it's far below what their intelligence or their access would allow them to have accomplished. And we're not talking about laziness. I promise you, I'm not talking about laziness. But there are some people who have had it ingrained in them from very young that they can do all things, that they are capable of accomplishing anything that they put their mind and their spirit to. And what studies have shown is that people that truly have ingrained belief in that mindset set higher goals and achieve more and go further. So, why, you know, I took time to read the studies, but I'm not going to over analyze it. Let's do that tonight because I don't want to go into the statistical research, the empirical evidence, and the understanding that science and psychology came to. I want to give you the opportunity to process what it means practically. Because one thing I always say is that what you believe is what you will achieve. And that's it, no more, no less, if you cannot believe it. Because you can believe things you can't see. I talk about Hebrews 11 all the time. That's the faith chapter in the Bible. And the definition of faith is the evidence of things, the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. I think I mentioned it last week. And the truth is, grit and perseverance are growth mechanisms. So even in the studies that were done, if people had to overcome challenges as young people, as children, they did better in the long run in life. And what that really led me to believe is this. And if you've been watching me long enough, you know that I absolutely believe that everything that we go through has a purpose, even if that purpose is to simply grow a tool that we may need on another level. That's how grit and perseverance work. But when it comes to achieving things in our lives, there are many times that we go through challenges in our early life. For me, a lot of my challenges happened in childhood. And I didn't know and I didn't understand why I had to go through those things. But now I'm able to see how they have given me tools that allow me to exist where I am now. I'm still going through challenges. We all go through challenges. But my mindset on challenges. And it's funny because, a lot of children of trauma tend to laugh at really terrible things that have happened. And you tell them to people who have always lived in peace and safety, and they're appalled for you. And they can't understand why you think it's funny. I'm not necessarily talking about trauma. I'm talking about, although trauma can build some resilience, I'm talking about challenges. I'm talking about dealing with poverty. I'm talking about immigrating to a place where you don't speak the language. I'm talking about moving around a lot and not having familial support. I'm talking about working your way through college, a credit or 3 at a time. I'm talking about the things that we go through that teach us that anything in life that we want is possible if we're willing to laser focus on it, set baby steps, and refuse to quit. Hope is the key. Because if we did not believe we could do it, if we did not believe that it was possible, would we keep going? And of course, science and empirical research tell us absolutely not. Hope is the key to having grit and perseverance. So if someone who is very brave does something time and time again and fails time and time again, the thing that would keep them going is a belief that it is possible. But on the other side, there are people who have heard, no one has ever done this. It cannot be done. I don't know why you're considering do it. Don't even try. And yet they still believe that they will be the one to do it. Now, I'm not saying they necessarily will or they won't. In some cases, they do. But what I'm talking about is the mindset that it takes to believe that despite the fact that all of the odds are stacked against you, that nothing in your life is set up to prepare you for this, that you can do it. that you are capable of doing it. Hope is the key, and perseverance is the doorway. If you are willing to walk in grit and resilience, if you are willing to fail, if you are willing to try again and again and to accept help, to get up and dust yourself off and try again. The Bible says a righteous man falls down 7 times but gets up 8 times. That's the key. And it's not just a key to career success. It's not just the key to being wealthy. It's not just a key to entrepreneurship. It's not just a key to building a business. It's not just a key to achieving life goals and milestones. It's a key to life. Righteousness is just that. It's believing that because God said, everyone who believes will be saved. It's believing that God said, if I confess my sins, he's faithful and just to forgive me of all of my sins and cleanse me of all my unrighteousness. It's believing that if God said, I go to prepare a place for you and I will come again to receive you into myself, that we have hope that this life doesn't end here. And as a result, we have to have the grit, the tenacity, and the perseverance to keep going. So as we get up and stand up and show up, and I'm so proud of everyone who came out to vote, New York City, Virginia, Georgia, the Public Service Commission. I'm going down a short list of the ones I remember. Mississippi, that was amazing. But the truth of the matter is that grit, recognizing that fighting is worth it for certain goals, for certain outcomes, for things that you desire to see in your life. If you have enough hope and if you have enough tenacity, you can achieve anything that you set out to accomplish. And that's a fact. So tonight, I want to remind you that hope is the key. You have to believe that it's possible. You have to believe that life is going to get better. You have to believe, if you're furloughed, that you're going to financially make it through this shutdown. You have to believe that that child that's acting a fool is going to get together. You have to believe that that marriage that's been on the rocks and y'all are fighting every day is worth fighting for. You have to believe, because when you change your mind, then you lose the tenacity. You lose the will to persevere in spite of challenges. And the winners, the race, listen, this is Bible. The race does not go to the swift or to the strong, but to the one who endures until the end. Tenacity, grit, perseverance. Those are the tickets to the life that you've always wanted to see for yourself, but you can't get there without hope. And I'm not saying that in every situation. I've also talked about when it's important to walk away, because we got to be in the will of God, and we have to be making sure that our mental health, our spiritual health, and our emotional health are prioritized in our decision making. But if you have a promise, if you have a plan, if you have a goal, and you have a belief that you can get there, you got to believe that if you keep going, if you don't quit, if you refuse to believe those who say that it's not possible, that there is always a way. There is always a way. And I've seen it millions of times. There is a way. Hope is what will keep us in these times. Hope is what will give you the will to persevere. Hope is what we all needed. And hope is what I got last night watching those election results roll in, if I'm being honest. So I told you I wasn't going to keep you long, but I want to encourage you to look at something that you feel as though you still want, but you've kind of given up on because you don't see a path. Things have not gone the way you wanted. Doors seem to have closed. The outcome does not look good, but you still have a flicker of faint hope somewhere that it could happen. I want to encourage you to renew your promise in that thing, to pray, to ask for wisdom and for a path, but then to believe that all things are possible. through God who strengthens us, because they are. I want for everyone to have the hope that we are entitled to in this season, because many people, especially Christians, believe in this time, oh, well, we're in the last days, everything is going to be hard and everyone is going to suffer. Yes, but read the whole word. God's people are promised protection. God's people are promised covering. God's people are promised angels who have charge over us to keep us in all of our ways. God's people are promised that they will be made a sign and a wonder in front of people who are wondering how they are surviving, even thriving in the midst of circumstances that are killing other people. I heard an amazing word just last month. God's people are blooming in deserts. So tonight, have hope, because the well of hope is where the will to continue will spring. It will bloom and it will prosper, and your life will be better for it. Find your hope. And just know that when you find your hope, you will find the will to keep going, one step in front of each other every single day. And the testimony that you will get out of that is one. You guys know I'm unapologetically a God girl, and you should have figured that out if you hadn't. But the testimony of what God does in our lives when we don't give up, when we don't quit, when we just keep going, when we just say, no, it doesn't look good. No, I don't like it. No, it's not comfortable. No, nothing is looking the way I want it to look, but I believe God. And I don't think He put me here to fail. He didn't put me in this job to fail. He didn't put me in this marriage to fail. He didn't make me the parent of these children to fail them. He did not bring me this far to leave me. Believe it, and then keep walking, because the only way you lose is when you quit. Let hope spring. Remember, guys, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And for some of us, what that means is we're going to have to clear our plates and create laser focus on these goals that our hope has abandoned. Because in truth, we were just trying to do too much. And that's why we are not who we want to be, where we want to be, living the lives we want to live. Go back to your promise, hold on to your hope, and just keep walking. Have a good evening. I'll see you next week on Wisdom Wednesday. Good night.